I worked in commercial radio for 40 years. When I arrived in the Columbus market, WCBE was my go-to station when I was not producing another radio show for my employer. Don't tell them that. I volunteered my services. 9 years later, I find myself as the general manager for the station that I love, that is near and dear to me.
My name's Mike Taylor, and I'm a radio broadcast specialist. That's what they're calling me these days. A lot of the artists we play will not be played on any other radio station in Central Ohio, maybe not even in the country. So when we find someone we like, we try to get them on the air, we try to get them into Studio A.
My name is Allison Holm. I'm the afternoon news anchor and reporter, and I've been at WCBE for 25 years. We once had, when I was on doing the newscast, we had the monitor start smoking and catch on fire. And I was in the middle of a newscast, and I couldn't stop. And so I had to wait until I had a sound bite and run to the door and shout out, "The studio's on fire!" and then run back in to finish that story and then go into the next one. So I'm pretty good about ignoring actions.
My name is Maggie Brennan. I've been with WCBE since my internship since 1993. We'll be excited to have more kids involved and more programming with that, whether they're going to be hosting some of the shows or behind the scenes, or even some of the bands playing live in Studio A.
It's a nice, wholesome place where you can see how the radio gets made. I've been involved with the station since I was a teenager. Around 14 years old was the first time that I went in and did any volunteer work for them. The people who work there know their stuff and make a really great environment for a learning opportunity.
Before I came to WCBE, I was a professional jazz musician. And then I got a job at Fort Hays. On my first day of teaching, I ran out the door and I ran next door and I knocked on the door and I went and I said, "Who's playing that stuff? That is really cool." And the secretary said, "I think you need to go in the back." So she let me in the back, and the next thing he was going to play was a piece of jazz music, and I have an encyclopedic knowledge of it. So I started telling him exciting things about the thing he was about to play. He said, "Wait just a minute." And he put a mic in front of my face, and for about 10 years then, I was Jim, the wacky sitcom neighbor next door. And I would just barge into people's radio shows and start talking.
It, number one, gave me an opportunity to reunite with Jim Manieri, who I knew from when he was in college and I worked at another radio station. And as a matter of fact, I hadn't had that type of conversation about music.
Hello to our entire Columbus City Schools community. My name is Rajan Oates and I'm a student at Columbus Downtown High School. Before we begin tonight's Board of Education business meeting, I invite you to check out these highlights and updates from across the district.
Hello, CCS community, and welcome back to Highlights from Around the District. As we bring in the new school year, we hope that students can start strong so they can end stronger. Strength comes in many forms, whether that is continuing to try your best or creating new goals for your personal best. And each day is a new beginning. Regardless of where your journey begins, try to make each step along the way count. Last week marked the start of school for our Woodcrest Elementary staff and students. Students in the district's only year-round school returned to class starting off the 2023-2024 school year. Meanwhile, our students on the traditional calendar will start back on August 23rd. Hopefully, everyone has had a great summer break and is ready to start the school year off strong. Speaking of summer, this season has been full of many activities, opportunities, and learning across the district. Last month, we wrapped up our 2023 summer experience where nearly 8,000 students benefited from many out-of-the-box experiences and traditional classroom enrichment. Since 2020, our annual summer experience has become one of the most anticipated programs for our students and families. We've been able to avoid the summer slide across many areas. Additionally, the experience has provided the chance for students to get back on track or even ahead in their academics. We hope students enjoyed summer experience and had many memorable moments. Our students have taken on many exciting opportunities throughout summer in addition to summer experience, including internships, workshops, and gaining vital experience for their futures. In July, 30 rising juniors and seniors not only got writing guidance, but also a glimpse into college life during the Young Writers Workshop at The Ohio State University. Here, writers lived on campus and picked one of 3 genres to study: creative nonfiction, poetry, and fiction. The workshop started back in 2008 when a CCS grad was taking creative writing classes at Ohio State and wanted to create a writing partnership between the university and CCS. Now the workshop continues to provide many great opportunities for our students. Also, over the summer, students got to see themselves as medical professionals during a 4-week program at Nationwide Children's Hospital. This experience was part of the Surgical Exposure and Exploration, or SEE, program, which is in its 2nd year. The program gives rising high school juniors and seniors at CCS and Crystal Ray Columbus High School to get hands-on experience and exposure to medical careers. Students learn to think like doctors, explore daily work life through job shadowing, and even get hands-on experience through the hospital's simulation center. Congratulations to the 9 students who completed the program. I know you learned many vital skills that will help you on your journey. Students have also been honing their skills through other internships throughout the summer. We know that the knowledge they are attaining and the skills they are developing will help them long after they graduate. These experiences have provided tremendous opportunities for our students. A huge shout out goes out to all our partners who make this possible. Also this summer, district leaders participated in restorative practices training through the International Institute for Restorative Practices to help lead the way in this vital work. Restorative practices provide a whole child approach with opportunities to connect, reflect, restore, and identify empowering solutions rather than punitive ones. We will be training other district leaders and staff in the fall, and by the end of the year, we aim to have classified and certificated train the trainers in every building. We recognize that this is an all-hands-on approach to creating safe and healthy learning environments for all. CCS is working on increasing attendance and restorative practices throughout the district and recently was awarded a $1.7 million grant from the state of Ohio to improve restorative practices. The grant will provide additional support for attendance teams to ensure students come to school. We continue to work collaboratively with parents to see what obstacles exist and how we can help. This new grant is aligned to my vision of CCS becoming a trusted district of restorative leaders and practitioners through investing in restorative practices, embracing our values, and fostering relationships to ensure a healthy, inclusive, safe learning environment for all. We've been working on many buildings in our district to get them ready for students to return on day 1. Renovation projects have included installing new playgrounds, HVAC, or even a full school remodel at Hamilton STEM Elementary. Many projects are underway, and you can check the progress on our CCS website. With summer wrapping up, there are still more exciting activities to look forward to before many return to school. We will be celebrating the success and academic achievements of our CCS students during next week's summer graduation on August 11th. Our CCS seniors have worked very hard to get to this point and have overcome many challenges. Our students continue to lead the way and show what it means to be portrait ready. Congratulations to these students and good luck on wherever your journey takes you next. Coming up on August 19th is our CCS Back to School Resource Fair. The event will take place from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Fort Hays campus. We will have free backpacks, school supplies, wellness exams, up-to-date after-school information, and so much more. You can RSVP to this event by heading to our CCS website under our Back to School hub. Thank you so much to our many partners who have made this event a reality. This is an event you definitely won't want to miss. Also, Back to School will be here before you know it. So don't wait. Enroll your child now to ensure that they are ready to begin on the first day of school. Parents should also update their addresses, phone numbers, and emergency contacts for their children via the parent portal. Additionally, Central enrollment will begin extended hours for August and September starting on August 8th. Extended hours of operation for August and September will be by appointment only, Monday, Friday, and Saturday from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. and Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 8 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. These have been highlights from around the district for the week of August 1. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our August 1st regular board meeting. I call the meeting to order. Please call the roll.
President Adair.
Present.
Ms. Beckerly.
Present.
Mr. Brown.
I'm here.
Mr. Cole.
Here.
Dr. Pierce.
Present.
Ms. Reyes.
Here.
Vice President Vera.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Will you all please stand and join me in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Board members, before we review the agenda, I want to take a moment of remembrance for a former board member, Pastor Leon Troy Sr. On behalf of the Columbus Board of Education and Columbus City Schools, our condolences go out to the family, friends, and ministerial family on the passing of Reverend Leon Troy Sr. Pastor Troy's contributions come from both the religious and civic sectors. He dedicated more than 50 years of his life to public service in the Columbus community, serving as Professor Emeritus of Second Baptist Church, the oldest Baptist church in Columbus. Pastor Troy was appointed to the Columbus Public Schools Board of Education in 1996, serving until 1997. As a board member, he was committed to the education of our students and improving student achievement and engaging its families and community. Pastor Troy firmly believed in the power of education and community outreach. His dedication to community development was a testament to his passion for fostering unity, uplifting those in need, and providing them with opportunity for a brighter future. He believed in the transformational power of education. As we celebrate a life well lived, a life of unwavering faith, tireless service, and boundless love for all, we remember Pastor Leon Troy for his kindness, wisdom, and leadership. He will forever inspire us to strive for a better world. If we could have a moment of silence. Thank you. Board members, on this evening's agenda, we have one individual here for public comment. We have several items on board matters. We're expecting a report from our superintendent and a report from the treasurer's office. We have public notice of reemployment hearings, and we have our consent agenda. We will finish up with an executive session. Is there a motion to approve our?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
It's been a motion and a second. Are there any additions? Seeing none and without objection, our agenda has been adopted. We will have public comment. Our first speaker, if they are here, is Frederick Glaze. Are you here? No, not here. Well, the topic is, I want the board to change the curriculum. When did CCS drop cursive writing in their curriculum? So we encourage Mr. Glaze, since he is not here, to please submit those comments in writing to us. All right, so we'll go ahead and move into our board matters. Our first item on our agenda is the resolution to approve the working agreement for building substitutes with the Columbus Education Association. I'm going to turn it over to the superintendent's office to say a few words.
Thank you, President Adair. We are very excited about the opportunity tonight to memorialize our agreement with CEA. Certainly, you know, we had a team that has been working on formalizing and establishing agreement. We are all of our educators and teachers and building subs to know how much we appreciate and value their support and their service in CCS. And we feel confident that this agreement demonstrates that. So again, thank you so much to our building subs for your service, for your leadership, for your support for our students, and showing up each and every day in our buildings and dedicating your work to supporting our students, which helps us reach our board goals as well as our PLG work. So thank you again, and we're excited tonight to memorialize this agreement.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and make the motion, and then we will have additional comments from board members. Resolution to approve the working agreement for building substitutes with the Columbus Education Association. Whereas representatives of the Board of Education and the Columbus Education Association have been engaged in negotiation for a working agreement for building substitutes, and whereas the attached document contains the terms developed through the bargaining process and approved by the Columbus Education Association on July 17, 2023, and whereas the document provides the terms of a first working agreement that shall continue in full force and effect through the day before the first regular teacher contract day of the 2025-2026 school year. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the Columbus Board of Education hereby approves an agreement with the Columbus Education Association based on the terms described in the attached document. And be it further resolved that the Board of Education authorizes the superintendent, prior to printing and with the agreement of Columbus Education Association, to make minor editorial corrections and changes as needed, provided such corrections or changes do not result in any modification to the intent or substance of the agreement. And be it further resolved that the superintendent be authorized and directed to affix her signature to the agreement and hereby describe between the Board of Education and the Columbus Education Association. So that is a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All seconded. Is there discussion? Please call the roll.
President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Vice President Vera?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Because this is what we call an MOU, it will be the superintendent that will be signing. At this moment, I would like for members of our team who are the building substitutes, as well as recognizing President John Caniglio and other members of CEA, to come up to the podium and give you a moment to speak, and then we will sign the MOU, Dr. Chapman and I believe President Caniglio, and we will then take a group photo to celebrate. President Caniglio.
I just want to say thank you. This working agreement professionalizes the building substitutes. I think it's also on the cutting edge of what working agreements between unions and boards of education. I believe that this model will be looked at from other districts around the state of Ohio and the country. So we appreciate that, and so thank you so much.
As they sign, again, we welcome the building substitutes into the union family. Building substitutes are obviously a vital component of our school environment. Not only are they there to support their fellow teachers, but they are there to be continuous improvement of adults in the lives of the students, because they are in one building and they are there to help build that internal school community. And so they are incredibly important. So we thank all of our building substitutes, and we look forward to working through this working agreement and recognizing you as a member of CEA. Board members, we're going to take a picture. I want to also give a big thank you to the members of our bargaining team that represented us. You did an excellent job working with CEA. And, again, as President Caniglio said, this is the expectation going forward, to maintain really great labor relations and work on things collaboratively, because we know that benefits our students. So thank you to our bargaining team. Okay, we're going to go ahead and go to item 4.2, which is resolution to proceed. I'm going to ask Board Member Cole, since this comes out of the Finance Committee, to, if you're ready, to read this resolution.
I got it. Yeah, thank you. It keeps moving, so I'll take that picture.
I got it, maybe not.
Here, I have it here.
Teamwork that makes the dream work.
We miss our board clerk or liaison. That's what's happening here.
Nothing beats the old school way.
Miss you, Missy.
Thank you, Madam President. This is a resolution to approve the working agreement for build.
No.
It's not.
Next one.
Okay, here we go. All right, this is our resolution for determining to proceed to levy a tax in excess of the 10 mil limitation. Whereas the Board of Education of Columbus City School District has hereafter declared the necessity of levying an additional tax in excess of the 10 mil limitation for the benefit of school district pursuant to provision of Section 5705.217 of the Ohio Revised Code. And whereas pursuant to Section 5705.03 of the Ohio Revised Code, this Board of Education has heretofore certified to the Franklin County Auditor a resolution requesting the county auditor to certify to this Board of Education the total current taxable value of this school district and the dollar amount of revenue that would be generated by 7 7/10, that is 7.7 mils per year as specified in such a resolution. And the Board of Education has received the certification of the county auditor that such total current taxable value of $12,870,611.650, and that such dollar amount of revenue is $99,104,000 per year. That's $38,612,000 per year derived from the current operating expense portion of the levy, and $60,492,000 per year derived from the general permanent improvement portion of the levy. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Columbus City School District, County of Franklin, Ohio, 2/3 of all members elected thereto concurring, that it is hereby declared that the Board of Taxes, or that the amount of taxes which may be raised in this school district within the 10 limitation by levies on the current tax list will be insufficient to provide an adequate amount to present and future requirements of the school district. That pursuant to the provisions of Section 5705.217 of the Ohio Revised Code, it is necessary to levy an additional tax in excess to such 10 mil, again, to such 10 mil limitation for the purpose of current operating expenses at the rate not exceeding 3 mils, and for general permanent improvement at the rate not exceeding 4 7/10. So folks, just as, I know I'm reading very technical language, that'll be ballot language, but essentially what this is saying is that we are asking the community this coming November, that we are looking to get a 7.7 mil separate, but 7.7 mil total ballot initiative for the purpose of an operating levy and also for the purpose of a permanent improvement levy. Operating levy that provides resources for directly for our students in a building, that provide for all of the things that they're going to need for staff, and at the same time, a permanent improvement levy that helps us close the gap in where we know we need further resources capital-wise for our school buildings. So I just wanted to make sure I clarified that as I finish. That the question of the adoption of said tax shall be submitted to the selectors of the school district at the election to be held on November 7, 2023, and if levy is approved by a majority of said electors, such additional tax shall first be placed on the 2023 tax list for first collection in current year 2024. That the form of ballot to be used at said election shall be substantially as follows, subject to any changes from the applicable board elections and/or the Ohio Secretary of State. Madam President, is there a second?
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Let's have discussion. Board Member Brown.
Thank you. I think it's great that we're moving forward on this now. I strongly support the package of the two issues. I think that the permanent improvement levy itself is both essential and smart for our community and for our school district. It allows for maintenance to our buildings and our facilities rather than to wait for things to break, at which time it's more expensive. This also protects our academic and teacher dollars so that they don't have to be used for repairs, and keeps those intact. In the past, the school district borrowed a lot of money from the operating monies that we use for academics and curriculum and teachers to pay for some of those repairs. This sets up a dedicated fund to do that. Because what we want is best for our students and staff, we need this permanent improvement levy. It's the most cost-efficient way to keep our buildings in good repair.
Thank you, Board Member Brown. Other comments? Board Member Beckerly.
I completely agree with everything Board Member Brown said. I just wanted to add that this really feels like an important moment. There's a lot, this levy package is part of some momentum on multiple fronts going forward, and we have new leadership, new energy. Dr. Chapman's committed to building relationships that will necessarily include transparency and honesty. This, in turn, is going to be the foundation for building the culture we need to improve the outcomes for our kids. We're coming off 2 labor negotiations that have been successful and really feel different. It feels like we're in a different place and we're moving together differently, and that's reinforced by the fact that our board leadership, combined with OPSI leadership and CA leadership, are working together with community leaders, business leaders, other electeds to advance this levy package going forward. And so this really feels like an important moment for our community, and I'm really excited about it. And the other thing that I think is worth stressing is that these levies are necessary. We wouldn't be asking our community if that wasn't the case. Board Member Brown said it best about the importance of the permanent improvement levy. This is long overdue and we need this. And we've needed it for a while, so I'm proud to be part of the board that's finally putting this forward. And the operating levy is going to allow us to do really important things, the things that we were able to do with our COVID money, like social workers, counselors, nurses in every building, matriculation coaches in the high schools, family ambassadors, all of these things, these staff and programming that will support our kids and the social emotional wellness of our kids and support the families educating our children are critical, and we need to be able to continue them once the COVID money is spent. And it will in turn take some of the burden off our teachers who are trying to fill the gaps for all of these roles, and will allow them to actually do the teaching. And all of this will improve the outcomes for our students, and that's the name of the game. So this is very necessary, very important, and I'm really excited to be voting for it. And lastly, we need to be all hands on decks, because we need to make sure our community understands exactly how important this is. And I'm looking forward to expending all of my energy over the next few months to support this levy and make sure it passes.
Thank you, Board Member Beckerly. Other comments?
I want to ensure, Madam
Go
President.
ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. What both of my colleagues have currently stated is absolutely more than appropriate to explaining the vision and the direction that this school district is headed. These dollars are absolutely essential as an investment. This is an investment in the labor and also the outcomes of our children. This is the investment that we want to put into our children that make them competitive regionally and globally. Our mission is that each student is highly educated, prepared for leadership and service, and empowered for success as citizens in the global community. These are young people that we're looking and asking our community to invest in to ensure that they are competitive, that they are leaders, that the end result is that they're beyond just portraits of a graduate. They're meeting those aims, but they exceed those aims. These dollars will put us in a continuing momentum. As horrible as this pandemic has been in terms of its impact on us, it's opened a door of opportunity for us to make a deposit. We've been focused so much on the deficit of things in this time that we've been going through COVID and teaching and learning through it. But we haven't talked a lot about the deposit opportunity that's available. This is a deposit opportunity to ensure excellence for our children, to ensure that they're learning at grade or beyond grade level, to ensure that they have the things that they need to be successful, and those who are responsible for them in a classroom and in a school building have the resources and training that they need to be able to provide the best. This is an investment. And I look forward to supporting this initiative. I look forward to knocking doors, making phone calls, and ensuring that this community has full understanding of the investment opportunity that can change this community, that can actually turn us around. And in closing, continue to prepare us and keep us ahead of the curve of what we're seeing with the poor funding we're receiving from the State House. We've watched our budget decline. I have personally seen us at one point in time funded to the tune of, I want to say, about 47% state appropriation to date, well, just under 30% state appropriation. I want to say about 27% if I'm not mistaken. And I'm looking at my guy right there to nod his head to say, Mr. Cole, you're off or you're on. But either way, we're at a state of funding by the state that is clearly diminished, and it's impacting our students, and it's asking Joe and Jane taxpayer in the city of Columbus to step up even more on behalf of our children. I know that you believe in our young people. I know this community believes in its school district. I'm asking very respectfully and humbly that you support our collective initiative to ensure that this community makes the right, the strong, and committed investment in our children.
Thank you. Board Member Reyes.
It's hard to follow that, but similar to Board Member Cole, I've been on the board in this community for several years. The reason I live in Columbus is because I truly believe in Columbus. I believe in Columbus City Schools. I am a recruiter of our students. I'm a recruiter of our teachers. I'm a recruiter of everything that Columbus City Schools does in this community. You see the results in our mayor and our commissioners and our city council. That's who we are. We are the community. We are Columbus. Our graduates are providing and giving back. The only way that can happen is for us to continue to provide high-level education, pay our teachers, pay our bus drivers, ensure that we have good leadership. As previously discussed, we have a new superintendent. The board is fully committed to ensure that we meet the obligations, follow the policies and the procedures that we have put in place to ensure that our students are meeting the expectations so that they can start a career, so they can graduate, so they can be viable in our community, which they're already doing, but we want to do it better. When you see the media and you see the results of our buildings, it is important that we committed several years ago, and we're only a third or almost a little bit of 2/3 of the way there, to ensure that every child in our district has a good, viable learning environment. And that means a good, air-conditioned, heated building. Not only our children, our teachers, our staff, our community, we welcome you to come into your building. This is a representative of our community. I'm a taxpayer, and many of my colleagues are a taxpayer. So this is not something that we're saying, that we're not also committing to. We are investing not only our time as board members, but we're also investing our money in our children. We truly believe that it is the appropriate time to ensure that our kids continue to thrive, continue to graduate. I mean, just as a personal pride, you know, a lot of us, we haven't been here since graduation, but when I was talking to a community member about the fact that CAUS had 38 valedictorians out of a class of 60-some students. That is Columbus City Schools. When you go to other graduations and you see 12, 14, 15 valedictorians, these are high-performing students coming from our district, from our community. And it is important and imperative for us to support those students, and I'm definitely one of those supporters.
Thank you, Board Member Reyes. Dr. Pierce.
So I won't repeat all the things that have been said. I will keep my statement very short and concise. Our unified support for these tax levies will provide essential funding to ensure that all students have the same opportunities to learn, grow, and succeed. Please join us in strengthening our district by supporting our students and voting yes.
Vice President Vera.
And I echo all my colleagues' sentiments, and I think I just want to highlight our kids deserve this. And so I think it's you know, what our kids deserve is what our kids need. We look at just how the world has changed so much. And this investment, as my colleague Cole mentioned earlier, this is an investment. This is an investment in our kids who rightfully deserve all of the opportunities that we can possibly give them. And so I am honored to be able to serve alongside of all of my board colleagues in making this happen for our kids. I'm also honored to be able to serve alongside of our union partners. And there's more to come. And this is not something that we can do alone. It is something that we have to do collectively as a community. This is what Columbus City Schools is rooted on, community. And we want to make sure that any community partner, parent, constituent that wants to be a part of this process has the ability to do so. So more information will be coming out about that. But I just really want to highlight the importance of our kids deserve this. As an alumni of this district, I have been able to firsthand experience a lot of the things that we often read about. And I think this is a crucial time for us to be able to say, let's do this, and let's do this for our kids. And we have the power to do that collectively together. So I thank you. I look forward to, you know, getting out in our community to be able to have these conversations. But it is a new day in CCS, and together we can do what needs to be done for the betterment of our kids.
Thank you. I think our community spoke very loudly last summer, and the power of community is really about centering our children at the core and ensuring that we are improving this district to not only see the outcomes that we know our children are and can achieve, but ensuring that we are making that future investment back into this community. Like my colleagues said, this ask of our community is essential. The operating dollars are essential. The PI levy is essential. These things go back directly to the education of our children. It's not fair for our kids not to have what our fellow colleagues in the suburbs are giving their children. That's not fair. And each of us, I think, as the adults in this community, look at our children and say, you should have everything that you need in order to be your best selves. And that's what these asks do. And it builds the foundation not only for the future of our district, but our children's literal future. Public education is under attack. So make no mistake, no one is coming to our rescue from the state. No one is going to be giving us a huge check from the state. That's just not how life is today. And we have to be really realistic about that. We're going to fight. As your Board of Education, that's part of our job, is to figure out how to fund things. And we're going to keep doing that. We're going to try to figure out ways to fund education and fund projects in a way that makes sense. Because like Board Member Cole said, it's not also fair to our community. But this is how we have to do it. And I know that our community will stand strong with us, just as we stand strong with our union leaders and our families and our parents, and most importantly, our students. These two pieces of financial asks that we are asking our community for, again, are essential. And we need these things in order to ensure that we have the best educational outcomes for our students. And that's something that I know our community will stand behind. And that's why I am voting, along with my colleagues, to place this as one ballot initiative on the November ballot. And we are going to be asking our community to support. Thank you. Will you please call the roll?
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Vice President Vera?
Yes.
President Adair?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move into item 4.3 and 4.4. I'm going to ask, I didn't tell Dr. Pierce this before, but we get the opportunity to, as a board, nominate people for awards from the Ohio School Board Association, excuse me. And I'm wondering if, Dr. Pierce, if you would take a moment to just explain what these awards are and the role that these type of awards play in the recognition of individuals and the public in supporting public education.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. These awards give us the opportunity not just at the district level, but also at the state level in partnership with the Ohio School Board Association to recognize and appreciate individuals within our district that go above and beyond kind of their daily service that they provide. It gives us an opportunity to honor and recognize individuals within our community that are supporting our district and our students. As many of my colleagues have said in their statements in support of the tax levy, we have dedicated community members that are strong supporters of public education and strong supporters of our district. And so this gives us an opportunity, again, to thank them for that work and that service that they do for us. And so I'm always excited when we get the opportunity to nominate and name individuals for these awards, and I always take pleasure in our conference. I will put a shameless plug out there. The OSBA conference will be on September 20th at Villa Milano. It will feature, I want to say, our Cause Chorale as well as our Cause Jazz Band, and it will also feature the president of Columbus State will be our guest speaker. And so this will be a great event for all of our communities to come, all of our community members to come out and support, again, the individuals that we are recognizing for their dedication and their service to not only our district, but to our students in public education.
Thank you for that, Dr. Pearson. Thank you for serving as the president of our Central Region, representing our district well. Our first award is OSBA Friend of Public Education. And this year, the board is nominating Director Benita Reese from the Columbus Recreation and Parks Department. We've chosen Director Reese for a number of reasons, but most importantly, it really embodies her leadership and the whole staff at the Columbus Recreation and Parks Department really embody what it means for a whole community to come together to support our children. When we have them at school, they get to go after school back to rec centers for programming, education, and it's really important that we have that continuity. Recently, we were in a meeting with Director Reese, and she made a comment that across the country, it's really hard for some reason for school districts and parks departments to work together. And we have, as two governmental entities, committed to our community that we want to do that better. And we have partnered on our summer experience. We have partnered with having our recreation leaders in our schools. And we have a lot of new plans to partner together on improving facilities and meeting our intergenerational needs of our entire community. For those reasons, Director Reese, who represents herself and is a wonderful leader, as well as her staff, are being nominated for the Friend of Public Education Award. That is a motion.
Second.
Any comments? Board Member Cole.
Just very briefly, I thank you so much. I just want to personally say that this is a relationship with Recreations and Parks that I think is one of the most exemplary, not only in my tenure, but I've even seen prior my tenure. This is something that took, partnership with the city in very kind of community external ways and actually internalized it to a building level where we actually have Parks and Recs employees working during a lunch hour to support that school building, encourage those children and give them additional activities, and also provide opportunity, Mr. Coneglio, for teachers to have additional planning time and opportunity to strengthen their preparedness for instruction in a school building, to do what they do best. This is just a phenomenal relationship. She has been an outstanding director. I look forward to what's coming more from that. I want to thank those team members internally who have worked with her. Seneca, Lee, Karima, all these folks who've come together in communications as well as engagement to make this relationship really work. And I just can't, I'm just on fire about this kind of opportunity for our kids and for our staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Thank you. Please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Given my role as Central Region President for OSBA, I have to abstain, but I am very much in support.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Vice President Vera?
As a trustee of OSBA, I also have to abstain, but I am very, very excited and honored for that nomination.
President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Our next award is OSBA Exemplary School Employee Award nomination. And this year, we are excited to nominate Tawanda Allen, who is the Avondale Satellite Kitchen Operator. And Miss Allen is here with her family, if you guys want to come up. And I believe April's here too. Everyone come up. So we featured Miss Allen in our National School Lunch Hero Day back in May. And our administration and really our community was just taken aback by her dedication to building relationships in her school building. She says things like, Avondale's like a family. It's important to make connections with the children because they want it and they need it. She also knows exactly the favorite food of every single child that comes through her line. And not only does she know that, she encourages them to eat healthy because she knows that the fuel they put in their bodies at the beginning of the day and at lunch is what is going to sustain them in the classroom. And so it's really important that, we recognize people like Miss Allen because she is sometimes an unsung hero, but I know that the children in your building appreciate the work that you do each and every day. One of the things that she does say in the article, and I'm going to take some umbrage with it, because you say, yes, I'm just a food service person, but to a lot of these kids, it seems like I may be a little more. To the entire community, it is, you are more, and you are never just. You are an incredible member of our food service team who performs an essential job function every single day, helping our children reach their outcomes. And we are so proud to nominate you as our exemplary, what's it called? Exemplary school employee for this year. Woo! Okay, I'm gonna let you talk in a minute, but let's make it official, okay? So I'm gonna, that is a motion.
Second.
Are there any comments? Let's go ahead and call the roll, and then we'll have her comment. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Cole.
Absolutely, yes.
Dr. Pierce.
Again, given my role as Central Region President of OSBA, I have to abstain, but Ms. Allen, do know that I celebrate you, I honor you, I thank you, I give overwhelming gratitude to the way that you impact the lives of our students. Thank you.
Ms. Reyes.
Thank you for choosing us. Yes.
Vice President Vera.
I also have to abstain, but I just want to say thank you for the work, the selfless work that you do every single day. It's so critical, and I still remember my elementary school team, and they fed me every day, and I really, truly, I want you to understand what that means to young people. So when you think about the work that you do every single day, understand that you're not just anything. Thank you.
President Adair.
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly.
Yes, I'm going to have to say something too. I was a teacher for 13 years, and you are not just anything. Critical part of my team for serving my students in ways large and small, and thank you. Just thank you, thank you.
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your service. I'm going to let you, if you'd like to say a few words, or anybody up there would like to say a few words.
I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. I truly appreciate it. I appreciate my team behind me. Thank you.
We're going to come and take a picture with you and your family. All right. Thank you so much. We're going to get these awards over to OSBA, and we hope our nominees win. Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and move now into a series of second readings. That's items 4.5 5 to 4.11. I'm going to turn it over to Board Member Brown for this portion of our agenda.
Thank you. We've got 7 items in total. All of these are recommended changes to policy and improvements to the policy. I'll go through them individually and see if anybody has questions on any of them or comments on any of them. But before we get into that, I want to tell you that, one, the Governance, Policy, and Advocacy Committee has worked through these and was unanimously supportive of these changes to policy. In addition, Kyle Latwell, who is staffing the committee, has done an exceptional job in researching and helping to put these together. James Barnes participated a great deal. And this time, unlike many times, I got really quality input from several sources. Courtney Johnson, one of our librarians, has written and spoken and has really pointed out some things that were useful. Our own Tina Pierce gave me a substantial amount of commentary and suggestions on the policies, and we worked through all of that. And finally, we got a letter from Kaleidoscope from Amanda Erickson, who's there, reiterating a number of points that they thought we should reconsider. And we've done all of that. And as a result, we've got the policies here for second reading and adoption. So the first of these, 4.5, is Policy 2520. And this deals with instructional resources and helps to define what we mean by instructional resources, to say what types of different instructional resources we have, and explains what they all are, and explains also that if there are any complaints about instructional resources, that we now have a reference to a policy, 2525, which deals with complaints about instructional resources. I move that we adopt the policy.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I will add to Board Member Brown's comment to thank all of our staff and administrators, as well as our Policy and Governance and Advocacy Committee for their due diligence and looking over to making sure that these policies were consistent in language and terminology.
Thank you. Other comments? Please call the roll.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Vice President Vera?
Yes.
President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 4.6 pertains to Board Policy 2525, and this is the one that I just mentioned, is the process for complaints dealing with instructional resources. And this one we have made some further modifications to, and it explains to anybody how they can complain and what the process is for dealing with the complaint. We ask for a written and signed complaint form. Goes to the principal. When the principal receives that, the principal will forward that to the superintendent or superintendent's designee, who may choose to convene a review committee to consider the complaint. Several of the comments were suggesting that that be mandatory to convene a committee. but after thinking it through a great deal, it was determined that many of these complaints are likely to be frivolous and the kinds of things that we don't need a committee to deal with. Obviously, it's something that we can revisit in the future if there's a reason to do that. But I think that the superintendent, as our CEO of this big organization, can be trusted to decide what's worthy of a committee to review and what's not. In any case, whether it's the superintendent or the review committee, there is an appeal to the Board of Education, so it's not the end of the process. We also dealt with several folks wanted to change the language on materials that will be what remains in use during the complaint process and what does not. The only things that will not continue to be used during the complaint process are materials that are obscene or harmful to minors. The words sexually explicit really don't mean anything and don't add anything, and just get some people confused. And we've provided the references to the Ohio law that defines those two terms, obscene and harmful to minors. So we've got a very clear definition.
Is that a motion?
Questions?
Motion?
I move that we adopt this policy.
Second. Is there any discussion? Cool.
Madam VP first.
Okay.
Thank you. I think this policy is really, really important because there seems to be sometimes a misconceptions that parents don't have a voice. And I think this policy really defines, outlines the process and the procedures for parents who have questions about the materials and instructional resources that are being provided to their students. And so I just really want to thank the team for being able to spend additional time on this particular policy because as we constantly state, our parents do have a voice. And I believe this policy really identifies, how to go about utilizing that voice and making it known alongside of your principals and your teachers, to be able to have that dialogue. And so I just want to thank my colleagues because this is a policy that people say, we don't have a voice, we don't have a say. And this policy really provides clear direction as to how families can go about having very important conversations around the instructional resources that their kids receive on a daily basis. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Member Cole?
Just very quickly, I think you are absolutely on point, appropriate with the thought of this particular policy. The one thing I would say, though, is that I wouldn't necessarily say that most of the grievances that we might be getting could be frivolous. I think a lot of this is based on how people interpret reality, how they interpret what is appropriate in a way that they believe. And more often than not, it's our opportunity, even via this process, to educate folks on what their actual protection under First Amendment really entails. And it does not entail anything that is lewd or disruptive to a school environment. Let me say that again. This is not Michael. This is the U.S. Supreme Court that says as long as it's not lewd or disruptive to a school day or school environment, that First Amendment aspect of this is actually protected. So what we are doing is standing in fidelity with law. We're standing in fidelity with what we know is best and most appropriate, but giving voice, giving opportunity for efficacy in the process, giving us the opportunity, whether we establish a committee or not, to identify what those qualifications for something being taken off the rolls for reading and for consumption for student learning, whether there's real merit to that or not. So again, I don't want to say something is going to be frivolous. I think more often than not, maybe it's just ignorance, maybe it's just not knowing, and it's our opportunity to educate in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Please call the roll.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Vice President Vera?
Yes.
President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. This was a particularly important one. We have not had a process at all for what to do if somebody raises a complaint, and now we do. You've all read about school districts around the country, the state, and in our own suburbs, where there have been complaints with no process in place and a lot of difficulty, and we're determined to do this ahead of time before we see any such things. At some point, we may see something, but now we know how to deal with it. The next policy, 4.7, the policy is 2510. This is one that we heard some comments about and tried to make some changes, and eventually we realized that the best course is simply to rescind policy 4.7, which pertains to adoption of textbooks. It's already covered elsewhere in the policies. I move that we rescind the policy 2510.
Second.
And a motion, a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Vice President Vera?
Yes.
President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. The next policy, item 4.8, is policy 2240. This pertains to controversial issues and explains how we deal with controversial issues, explains what a controversial issue is, and who can complain, and the process for dealing with that. Again, it's similar to 2520 in some respects and has a similar process. I move that we adopt policy 2240.
And a motion.
Second.
There's been a second. Any discussion?
Yes.
Board Member Beckerly?
I was kind of waiting till we got through all of these to get to here to sort of make some comments about this whole package. First of all, I want to express gratitude to everyone who worked on it, and gratitude to what seems to have been reported by some community members, Amanda from Kaleidoscope and Courtney Johnson, that there was collaboration and that we listened to each other. Harkening back to this feels like this is an important moment in our district. That sort of process is what we have to keep doing, and I think it's worth calling out that we seem to have done it fairly well here. So everyone involved, I want to thank you for that and commend you for it. This is really important because when you sort through it all, what the board is doing, and I'm very proud to be a member of the board that is doing this, is making it clear to our CCS community that we don't want to shy away from controversial issues. We don't want our teachers to shy away. We don't want them to censor themselves in terms of what they choose to teach, in terms of what the librarians put on their shelves, and what we have discussed in our classrooms. And it's important that we take the stand given what's swirling around us in the state and national communities, that we make it clear to our community that this is our value system. And I'm very gratified that we're saying this explicitly. And I think that basically what we're saying is we have your backs. Do what you know is best for our children. And I've been honored to have participated in enough book discussions and enough conversations with young people to know that when you handle these controversial and difficult topics well, everybody grows and it's what they need. And they need us to be there and present and able to do it with them in an entirely appropriate, age-appropriate, respectful, open and factual way, and we need to not be afraid to do that, and I'm very happy that we're saying that. What I will challenge our superintendent and her team, as we go forward, let's make sure that message permeates down. Because it's really going to be tempting for our teachers in the buildings to say, oh, I don't want to teach that book this year. Or maybe I shouldn't have that book on the, books that we in past would have taught. I mean, I know that if I were thinking about it this year, there's books that I would think twice about, sharing with my students, or topics, or maybe I'd avoid talking about that we would have had conversations about in the past because, it's controversial in this, it's kind of hard to not have that radar pinging if we're interacting with our children today in this environment. So I think that it's really important that our administration trust our teachers and encourage our teachers to be fearless in this environment where fear is permeating. Thank you.
Other comments? Thank you. Call the roll.
President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Absolutely, yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes? Vice President Vera?
Yes.
Motion carries.
And for what it's worth, I share Carol's comments totally. And, teachers, we're giving you a very clear signal of what we expect, what we want you to do, what we want you to be able to do. And without fear, we will back you up. So, thank you. Next, 4.9 is policy 5710, dealing with student complaints. This one, there is no change made since the first reading, and no comments pertaining to this particular one, and it's just as is.
Second.
I move approval.
Motion and
You're
a
okay.
second out of order there. We'll accept that. Any comments? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes stepped out. Vice President Vera?
Yes.
President Adair?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Next is item 4.10. This pertains to policy 5780. This explains explicitly what our student and parent rights in all of this process in dealing with the district, and provides some pretty good guidance for that process of explaining rights. Move that we approve this policy.
Wait, point of order. It's listed as a rescission.
5780?
Yes.
That's 410.
I'm sorry, yes, it is. Yeah, we had two rescissions. Yes, it's covered in elsewhere pretty thoroughly, and I move that we rescind this policy as noted on the agenda.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Vice President Vera?
Yes.
President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And finally, we have item 4.11. This pertains to policy 9130. And this one deals with public complaints. Just as a couple items ago we dealt with student complaints, this is the process for complaints from the public. Explains who can complain, several levels of resolution that this can go through, and who gets to make the decisions along the way. And of course, it ends before the board. The board is ultimately the decision maker on this. And there's not a whole lot of change, and it's presented now for approval. I move that we approve policy 9130.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Oh.
Oh, sorry, Dr. Pierce.
So this item, along with 5710 and 2240, I just want to call attention that we were very intentional about using gender-inclusive language, moving away from his, her, to more inclusive their, using students. So we were very intentional in terms of how we are modeling for our community what we want to see in our classrooms in terms of inclusiveness, in terms of ensuring that our students and community members have voice and agency. And so today I am thrilled that as a board we've come together to put processes in place so our community members, our parents, guardians, as well as our students have a process now where they can directly engage with our administrators at the building and district level to say what they want, what they need, where their needs can be met, and to also at the same time continue to provide our educators, and I use that very loosely to include our teachers, but also all of our staff members, be it bus drivers, our lunch attendants, our custodians that are in buildings, but to give them the freedom to teach the very real lessons that need to be taught. And so by protecting I like to say educator freedom. It provides an opportunity for our students to really learn those life lessons that in fact make them better human beings. So again, I thank all of our colleagues and all of our administrators and staff members that worked on these policies and that were just really intentional about ensuring that we have concise and inclusive language.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Vice President Vera?
Yes.
President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And I just want to again echo everyone that worked on that entire set of packages like everyone else has, and just reiterate, it's our intention to leave politics out of the classroom and know that we have your backs, CCS team, as we move through this. And it's going to probably get a little bit harder in this world, but know that if we stand together as a community, we can be that inclusive learning environment that our superintendent talked about in her video for all of our children, our team, and our community. So thank you to everyone that worked on those. And now we just have to let everyone know how to do the process.
Absolutely, and we will be prepared to do that so that everyone knows the role that they play in supporting these policies.
Thank you. And I will just go ahead and turn it over to you because you are up next with your superintendent report.
Thank you. Good evening, board members and community. Welcome back to the 2023-2024 school year. Today, we had an exciting, invigorating day of professional learning. We welcomed back our elementary and middle school leaders, and we kicked off the new school year at Mifflin High School with our entire central office leaders and school-based administrators. We spent the morning discussing our priorities for the new year, welcoming new faces, while anchoring the work in our Portrait of a Graduate, board goals, and guardrails. Throughout the day, we were very intentional about modeling the importance of strengthening relationships between each other and across teams and departments. But tonight, we're going to talk about school readiness and being prepared for day one. Tonight's presentation will focus on our planning and preparation for the upcoming school year in key areas. This presentation serves as a follow-up to our previous presentation back in June. Now I'll turn it over to Monique Jacquette, Chief of Strategic Priorities, who is leading the Day 1 CCS presentation for us tonight.
Thank you, Superintendent Chapman, and good evening, President Adair, Vice President Vera, and members of the board. Tonight, the team is excited to share updates on our Day 1 CCS Back-to-School Readiness Strategy. But first, we would like to acknowledge and thank each and every team member who had a role in preparing Woodcrest, our year-round school, for a successful Day 1 last week. As we welcomed students, staff, and families, it was evident that our Day 1 CCS strategy is a step in the right direction. As a reminder, the goal of our Day 1 CCS strategy is to ensure all Columbus City Schools students, families, staff, and facilities are equipped and ready for optimal support, teaching, and learning on the first day of school, August 23rd. This summer, our collective efforts have been focused on the following outcomes: making sure our facilities are clean, secure, and inviting, that staff are hired, onboarded, and in place, instructional materials are delivered to schools, students are enrolled in the correct grades and courses, and that families have received essential day one information from the district. Before we hear from members of the team, I would like to briefly share the process we've implemented to ensure each of our schools are ready to receive students and staff on day one. We began by first establishing common language and understanding of our business and operations standard operating procedures, or SOPs. This important first step allowed us to have a consensus view of how routine annual procedures, work requests, and special projects are prioritized in the district. Each week, our cross-departmental team meets to assess our overall progress, review feedback from our school leaders, and take action to address challenges that require the input of multiple departments. During these weekly check-ins, department leaders are able to strategize and make decisions based on data and feedback from our schools. This level of collaboration and transparency eliminates the need for guesswork and increases our overall efficiency and productivity. This is a screenshot of the self-assessment that departments complete prior to our weekly readiness team meetings. Within this form, department leaders assign a self-rating of overall progress toward completion of tasks from off track to complete. In addition, leaders give key updates to the readiness team, should be aware of, including any critical issues that could impact opening day. The self-assessment step is also where departments name any additional supports or resources that may be needed. This is a new process for the team that's creating a positive shift in the way we collaborate and collectively problem solve. Having dedicated time each week to check in with colleagues, receive feedback, and chart our progress provides us the opportunity to best serve our students, families, and staff without duplicating efforts or overlooking important details. The next step in this process is gathering feedback from our school leaders. Utilizing the Back to School Readiness Survey tool, principals walk their school buildings and exterior grounds and rate their readiness in over 60 standards across 9 categories, all of which are essential for a happy, productive, and safe school year. Individual school responses to the survey tool populate to a central dashboard that allows the readiness team to zero in on areas that require attention and resolution in real time. Completing the readiness survey is not a new process for schools, but this year we've added a component that allows for two-way communication between schools and departments. This eliminates the need for principals to send multiple communications to multiple departments and vice versa. Thank you for allowing me to share a quick behind-the-scenes look at our Day 1 CCS strategy in action. In the days and weeks ahead, we'll continue to work and collaborate across departments to ensure a great opening day in CCS. Tonight, leaders in various mission-critical areas will provide updates on the status of summer work, and we'll begin with Mr. Trevino in capital improvements.
So thank you for the opportunity this evening to lead off with capital improvements. So very excited to give you a snapshot of where we stand with this summer's work. So the slide you see in front of you lists those same critical projects we talked about as we entered the summer, adding to it a photograph of our new elementary playground standard that we implemented this year. So this is a prototype that we intend to replicate on an ongoing basis. So this is the primary structure that we've implemented at 8 sites. There's also a companion early childhood or pre-K playground that goes with it as well. And so we have 5 of those for this summer for a total of 13 sites. Pleased to report that of those 5 early childhood sites, all 5 of them are already installed. 3 of them are completely complete. 2 of them are complete. 3 of them are outstanding, just having the mulch and all the kind of final touches put together. Of those primary sites, 6 of the 8 are complete. The last 2 are installing this week. So we're on a really good pace to wrap up this work before the start of school. I'm going to take a couple slides and give you a preview on where we stand with Hamilton STEM. So again, this slide you already saw. So just to kind of recap all those major scope items that we're tackling at this elementary school and that very comprehensive renovation. So as of yesterday, painting was 99% complete, new ceilings 95% complete, casework 75% complete, with the last wing kind of being the green wing, which you'll understand better when you see a couple more pictures, installing this week. The new flooring is already 40% complete. It's been intentionally holding off a little bit to let all the other trades go first, so that's not a delay by any means. There's actually 3 crews working this week to make sure that flooring gets installed and to keep us on schedule. And you'll see here in just a second, they've also started refinishing the gym floor, which is a pretty amazing transformation of that space. So I also did want to expand on this slide that I showed you before, because I think it is one of the magic about projects and part of the reason why I get so excited about this work, that our team gets to sit down and work with the staff and collaborate, ideate, and take that imaginative work to design through that centerpiece, which you see is that kind of rendering, so that computer image that we can generate for people so they can really start to understand what these spaces are going to look like. And then now you see the reality, and it's really pretty close. It's really pretty stunning to me that we're able to render these things and show people in advance and then actually be able to produce them. And so here's just a few more images from inside Hamilton STEM, and you get to kind of really see how the designer, which in this case is Ansley, one of our project managers, uses color. It's a wayfind across the building, and so there's color by wings, and then if you see on the right side, all the colors kind of collide in those corridors. So the corridors are each color schemed as well, and it's just a really fun, vibrant mix that I think our students and staff are really going to enjoy. And then in the center, you get a little bit of a glimpse of what the classroom casework looks like. Also, I think a big improvement that teachers will have access to water for students to be able to drink right in their classroom, so they don't have to send them down the hallway anymore. And then here is the image of that multi-purpose space. So if you remember before, it was fairly dark and drab, and so now it's very bright, cheery, has these very colorful sound-blocked sound pattern panels on the wall, which are very functional. So intentionally, when we're going to do work, we're going to try to make it as attractive as we can, but they're very functional to really help knock down reverberation. And then hopefully you can see clearly enough that wood floor being sanded. It is going to be beautiful. I cannot wait for you all to see it. But then moving on, so same risks that we faced before. At this point, we're confident we're going to complete all of our projects and have school ready for the first day of school. But did just want to keep those up there front and center. And then on the left side, you see the picture of the corridors at the former Brookhaven, now International and Global site. And again, I don't know if you can remember how dark and dreary those floors were. The lockers have all been repainted, the floors have been completely redone. So after this summer, we'll have all new flooring throughout the entirety of that facility. And then moving on to some of the more infrastructure work on the right-hand side. Again, not nearly as exciting for probably most of our staff, but brand new chiller on the roof, brand new boilers in the mechanical room. So again, we're feeling very confident that we'll have a very comfortable building both summer and winter and everything in between for the upcoming school year. Systems there are starting up as we speak. We should be fully operational this time next week. And then moving on to our big HVAC projects for this year. So those are Columbus Alternative High School and Hubbard Elementary School. So at Columbus Alternative, we had a major electrical upgrade we needed to complete to be able to bring all that new air conditioning online. That was complete almost 3 weeks ago, and so equipment startup has been ongoing these past 2 weeks. So as of today, 60% of our classrooms have their air conditioning running already. We expect the last of that equipment will be finished for startup for classrooms this week, and the remainder of all the work will complete next week. So well ahead of the schedule to be ready for the start of school. And then similar at Hubbard, we actually had AEP finishing up our power upgrade there today. All the equipment there is complete, installed, and just waiting on that power. So contractors will be working the rest of this week. We expect to have Hubbard fully operational by the end of this week. And you can see in that picture, so a lot of infrastructure that goes in above the ceilings, but the ceilings are going back in as we speak as well. So very confident we'll be ready for school at Hubbard as well. One of our other projects, we kind of made into a bigger project than we maybe absolutely needed to, but we really did think it was warranted given the condition of Mifflin Middle School. So we went into Mifflin Middle School to do an HVAC upgrade to make sure we could get all of our classrooms air conditioned. But I know we mentioned before, we have a couple challenges at Mifflin. Number one, the building's way too large. Conditions pretty poor. So we've been able to reduce the footprint of that building by about 30%. We've kind of isolated off the northern half of the third floor as well as the portion of the building that's under the gymnasium. I think nobody will notice it if you hadn't been in the building before. It's been very nicely partitioned off. And so as part of that work, HVAC will be ongoing throughout the school year, but we've also really intentionally worked on the finishes. And so again, you have to remember what it looked like before, but you can start to get a flavor in the corridors of how we've unified the color scheme across the corridors. Where we had too many lockers before that were in very poor condition, we've just taken them out and covered them over, try to make things look as clean as we can. Certainly opportunities for artwork that will work with the principal on getting filled in with student work. In the center picture, you can see, again, if you didn't see it before, it was very, very dark navy blue, very oppressive feeling. So we've really brightened it up with paint. We've added new lights. I think it'll be a much more welcoming environment for our students. And then again, that HVAC upgrade will be continuing all the way through summer of 2024. I also wanted to highlight one project that was brought to us, but we're really excited to be able to incorporate. And so this was an initiative brought to us by the academic leadership team, where there's been a real struggle, I think no mystery, to retain and engage middle school students. And so we took it as a challenge and an opportunity to introduce our first formal, anyways, student lounge. And so at the very top left, you'll see the raw space. So we've not brought the furniture in yet because we want to make sure the worst of the construction is done first. If it looks like a real picture where it says Mifflin Middle School Student Lounge, that's actually a rendering done for us by the vendor who's supplying all the furniture. And so that gives you a flavor of what it's going to look like. And this is a space that is dedicated for our students. And so very flexible furniture that our students can get very comfortable in, whether they need to work independently, in small groups, or collaborate. But we're really excited to get the feedback on that space. So as we continue to do these kinds of projects, we can incorporate very similar spaces that really engage our students. And then on the right-hand side, the picture is maybe not that impressive just yet, but we also knew we had a real issue with kind of that first impression. So new paint throughout all the corridors, but a real focus on the entry lobby and then the cafeteria space that's open to it. So it'll be an all-new appearance when you come in. So new furniture in the cafeteria, all new paint, all new ceilings, all new lights. And so really trying to put our best foot forward as we welcome the community, our students, and our staff back this fall. And then just a couple more highlights. So on the left-hand side, you'll see our Westmore Middle School, which is being upgraded in the gymnasium along with Johnson Park. So new bleacher seats. I think the floors at Westmore were already redone, but Johnson Park was included. New divider curtains, just all those amenities we really need to have a functional gym. And then on the right-hand side is an image of our middle school cafeteria refresh. So this is a particular picture at the girls' middle school, but the middle schools will all have consistent furnishings. So it's a combination of that very quick to collapse furniture so our custodians can get spaces mopped, but it also includes booth seating at every site, 2 top tables, high top tables, gathering community tables. So again, just giving our students that real opportunity to sit in an environment that works for them and not necessarily the same environment every day. And then maybe some of our most nitty-gritty projects. So we have a lot of roofing work underway as well. So we have a total of 10 roof projects in construction as we speak. Those are Innis, Highland, West, West Broad, Woodward Park, Whetstone, Cranbrook, Scottwood, Leawood, and Walnut Ridge. So it's been a busy summer. Some of these projects are wrapping up as we speak. And then on the right-hand side, you see our walk-in cooler upgrades. So there are 6 of those in total. All 6 of them are installed. They're inspected. The first of them are starting up this week. The last 4 will start up next week. So again, we're feeling very confident that we're going to be ready for the first day of school. And with that, I will hand it to my colleague, Mr. Stuffelbein, to give you an update on transportation.
Good evening, President Adair, Vice President Vera, members of the board, Dr. Chapman. Unfortunately, I don't have all the pictures that Alex has, but I want to provide you with an update on all the wonderful work that the transportation team has been working on since our last meeting in June. The routing for the 23-24 school year is nearly complete. We're doing the final stages of that right now, where we're pairing routes to make sure that we have efficient and reliable routes that make sense. Those routes are slated to be completed no later than August 6th, and our mailers are on track to be sent out by August 11th. My apologies. There it is. I was looking at that one. All right. The mailers will be slated to be sent out and delivered by August 11th is our deadline that we're having for that. We're on track for that as well. Starting on August 7th, parents will be able to log into Infinite Campus in the parent portal, and that information will be also loaded into that system so they can check their busing information and routing plans there. We have held all of our meetings with our contracted partners. This year, we're going to increase the numbers to 105 routes that they will be handling for us, complete routes. And there are going to be approximately 170 van students that we're still going to be able to route. We've been able to make that more efficient this year by actually routing those ourselves internally and then providing them with the routing information. Some of the other things that we've been working on this year, the transportation team focused on two main goals this summer, and that's communication and staffing. Our first goal was to improve our customer service and communication abilities to families. For this, we are going to be utilizing two new tools to help us with this process. First is the Campus Messenger. This is going to be our main point of communication. We're still working on the finalized details of getting that implemented, but we should be on track by the first day of school. The second is our My Bus Stop application. This process is a phone application that parents can download that will allow them to track the bus while it is en route. It will also allow us to send push notifications for anything that may be occurring to that route while it is en route. Along with these added communication tools, we have hired additional staff in our communication center. We now have 18 call center reps and representatives and 7 dispatchers to help handle those situations where something may arise. Our second goal was to retain as many drivers from the previous school year as we possibly could and hire new drivers. The nationwide driver shortage is still a serious problem for us. Since June 12th, we have interviewed 84 candidates and currently have 59 of those candidates in the process to become a trainee. To date, we have hired 12 new drivers that have either returned from to CCS or have graduated the training academy and are now completed and certified new school bus drivers. As of today's date, we have 487 active drivers available for the first day of school. And at this point, I'm going to turn this over to my colleague, Miss Amy Grover.
Good evening, board members and community members. Tonight, I'll be providing an update on staffing as of August 1st. 96.5% of the certificated positions are filled for the upcoming school year. 99% of general education classroom positions, 94% of departmental positions, 87% of special education classroom positions, and 92% of special education departmental positions are filled. 88% of classroom positions are filled as of August 1st, 75% of bus driver positions, 88% of instructional assistants, and 94% of the remaining classified positions are filled. In preparation for the upcoming school year, 330 certificated positions have been hired, consisting of 115 general education classroom teachers, 128 departmental positions, and 87 special education teachers and departmental positions. 687 classified positions have been filled between August 1st, 2022 and July 31st, 2023, consisting of 72 bus drivers, 207 instructional assistants, and 408 other classified positions. To be ready for the first day of school, we continue to recruit top talent to the district in all roles and continue processing new hires. The process is underway to place substitutes and vacancies in positions where teachers are out on long-term leaves. We currently have 283 building substitutes, 30 of which hold teaching licenses, and 308 daily substitutes. Members of the talent department have been holding regular meetings with the special education department and academic services to assess and strategize the best way to provide services to the students of CCS. Placements are currently in process to move teachers able to obtain a high-needs supplemental licensure in hard-to-fill subject areas in accordance with the CEA Master Agreement. The talent department will work collaboratively with academic services and CEA to utilize this internal transfer process to redeploy existing staff into identified areas of high need throughout the district and prioritizing classroom positions. While preparing for the 2023-2024 school year, the talent department continues recruitment efforts. Recruiters will be available to discuss job opportunities at our Columbus City Schools walk-in hiring event, which will be happening weekly throughout August. We'll be in attendance at the Ohio Means Jobs Career Fair in Cuyahoga County on August 4th, the African American Wellness Walk on August 12th, the Latino Festival on August 12th and 13th, Easton Unplugged on August 17th, Back to School Fair with Columbus City Schools on August 19th, and the CBUS Soul Fest on August 19th. Now, if you'll be attending one of these events, please don't hesitate to stop by and say hi. And shameless plug, don't forget to spread the word that Columbus City Schools is hiring and we are the employer of choice in Central Ohio. Finally, we'd like to talk about our talent pipeline work occurring. Pipeline work is absolutely crucial to the future success in staffing our schools. 11 Columbus City School employees are in the Capital University cohort for the Capital City Teacher Residency Program. And we are also engaged with ODHE as Ohio moves towards implementing a teacher apprenticeship program. Our expectation is that CCS will have the most robust teacher apprenticeship program in this state. And now I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Klein.
President Adair, Vice President Vera, board members, and Superintendent Chapman, as well as our other distinguished guests. In an effort to enroll scholars in a timely manner, the Central Enrollment Center will be offering extended appointment hours. The Central Enrollment staff will be joined by the Student Data Specialist team to serve customers both virtually and in person for appointments Monday, Fridays, and Saturdays from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., and Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 8 a.m. to 7:30 p.m., beginning August 8th and through September 28th. Our information management team has completed our year-end processing and assured that Infinite Campus, our student information management system, is up and ready for the next amazing school year. As we prepare for the start of the 23-24 school year, our student information systems team has been collaborating directly with school administration, supporting the completion of master schedules and individual student scheduling. Finally, we continue to evaluate the current data integrations with third-party vendors, such as Versatrans, Canvas, Clever, and many more, to assure that our students, parents, and staff all have the appropriate access needed to support our scholars. With our student data support team, they have been focused on updating and aligning our Public School Works assessments to the Infinite Campus dashboard and making sure that documentation is updated with changes for the new school year. They also have been very excited to pitch in and collaborate with multiple business owners in Columbus City Schools to offer our hardworking secretaries an August Office Academy to remember. Our Office Academy will be held tomorrow at Columbus Afrocentric and provides professional development training and updates to all of our building, department, as well as substitute secretaries in preparation for the school year. This will be an in-depth training providing updates such as the new look of Infinite Campus, changes and updates to our retention of student records pursuant to House Bill 33, attendance and behavior documentation per our newly updated guide to student success. This training will allow our secretaries to be empowered to reach new heights of accountability. Next, please welcome Jacqueline Bryant with our Communications and Engagement team.
Good evening. I am delighted to share some exciting updates from Communications and Engagement. We have transformed our district website into the ultimate hub for everything related to the upcoming back-to-school season. The Back-to-School Hub houses a wealth of essential resources, guides, and tips to ensure a smooth return to campus for students, parents, and educators alike. From parent portal assistance to the latest school supply lists, health checklists, and even building improvements, our website is tailored to meet the needs of our CCS community. Just visit ccsoh.us to explore the Back-to-School Hub. Don't forget to mark your calendars for the essential CCS event of the summer. The district's annual Back-to-School Resource Fair will be held on August 19th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on the Fort Hays Metropolitan Center's campus, located at 546 Jack Gibbs Boulevard. Families can look forward to an action-packed day filled with fun, food, and fabulous resources, free backpacks and school supplies, wellness exams, and much, much more. Our Office of Engagement has collaborated with various CCS departments and more than 100 community partners to ensure every CCS family receives the support they need. I've listed a few of those partners on the screen. Our bilingual liaisons will also be on site to make the resource fair even more inclusive, providing a warm welcome and assistance to our English as second language families. The Back-to-School Resource Fair promises to kick off the upcoming school year with a blast. If you need more details, please, or to stay updated, log on to ccsoh.us or contact our Fact Line coordinator. The number is 614-221-3228. Thank you for your time, and I now hand it back to Dr. Chapman for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Jackie, for closing us out, and thank you to our team members for your efforts and your energy around this work all summer, as well as providing those key updates during our meeting tonight. President Adair will entertain any questions that board members may have about what we've shared.
Yes, we have questions from Dr. Pierce, Beckerly, and Vera.
And Cole.
And Cole.
Thank you so much for the presentation. This is a transportation question. As we think about the vans not only being used to transport our students to and from school, we've also allocated dollars to purchase vans for schools. Do we have any updates on those vans being made available to the schools?
We do not at this time. They still do not make a van for us. What we are entertaining is a microbus system now, and we've just gotten that information here about midsummer that those are an available option. However, the cost for those is extensive. So we're looking at how we can utilize that and fit that into a process.
Can we anticipate that a proposal will come before the board related to this and this new development?
We're still in the very early infancy stages of researching them.
Okay. Next question is transportation related. We are introducing 2 new systems. How do we plan to educate parents and community members? And I say community members because I'm thinking about the grandmothers or the grandparents and family members that are helping to get students on buses. How are we going to communicate this new system to them?
We will collaborate with some of the other communication teams within CCS to provide the processes of how we do that and what it entails to sign up for this service. And it's a service that's provided through our routing software, VersaTrans. This was just made aware to us here within the last couple weeks, and we're trying to get that process in place and go through some of the requirements that we need to make sure that we have the authority to go ahead and implement that. As far as Campus Messenger goes, it is the same system that our whole district uses at this point.
My last question then relates to our facilities. So, Mr. Trevino. How are you, sir?
I'm great. How about you, Dr. Pierce?
I am well. So my heart is just thrilled that we are introducing student lounges within our buildings. I have had the great opportunity to meet with a number of our high schoolers, and they have talked about the spaces that they are creating in their buildings around wellness, spaces where students can go and take a moment, where they have lava lamps and all types of things where students can just get the break that they need. My question is around, since we are introducing this, do we have a timeline for how we seek to expand it throughout buildings? Are we thinking about providing resources to students and student groups who might be interested in determining if their buildings have such space that they can create? And I think about some of our buildings who currently have like senior lounges. Is there a way that we can expand that and make it possible for all students who might need a moment to be in that space to have that space? That was a loaded question.
Oh, President Adair to Board Member Pierce. So absolutely, this is in its infancy. So actually really thrilled that the question idea even got thrown to us. Like from a de-siloing standpoint, I'm not sure there is any better way for us to impact change than to have exactly these discussions. So I don't have an answer for you on how we will roll out, but obviously part of I think the messaging behind PI levy is, listen, there's very little we can do when we don't have funds to be able to, we can plan everything, but until we have the mechanism to actually implement, there's not a lot of reason to talk and get people excited about something. So kind of hand in hand, I think we should be having these conversations with staff, with students. How do we make impact? Now, on a very practical standpoint, I will tell you one of the big challenges in our legacy buildings, that nice fluffy word we use for the old buildings, is they don't have a lot of spaces to support this kind of work. Versus you go into a new building and you're going to find more offices, more tutor rooms, spaces that we might readily turn into a sensory room or a student lounge. And so I think that is where part of the message has to be, that we cannot take the foot off the pedal on master planning. Some of these things we can fairly easily retrofit into old buildings. Some of them are going to be much more challenging. So the short answer is yes. How we do that, I can't tell you right this second, but that part's very exciting for us.
And as you think about that part, is there going to be a way to incorporate student voice in this through maybe our superintendent's ambassadors programs or building level?
Absolutely. I also want to share that we talked about 2 different strategies in this conversation. So creating SEL spaces or spaces that provide flexible seating for our students. I want everyone to know that we are creating those spaces inside of our classrooms, so it's not a separate space in some instances. And also in all of our peak classrooms, that we have certainly invested resources and supports for them to feel more like an SEL space for adults as well as staff. And so that's been a strategy that we've been working on. In some of our classrooms, there's buildings, you'll also see separate SEL spaces, again, for staff, for students to access that, flexible seating, dim lighting, warm and fuzzy spaces for them to regulate their feelings, check in with themselves, and reconnect before and reset themselves before returning to class or for work. So that's one strategy that's already in place, and you'll probably see in many of our buildings. And then this new strategy of expanding and investing in our student lounges. Certainly, we want to make sure that we're centering those spaces around our students' voice, what they need. This resonated or came up to us based on student needs. They were advocating for themselves, and fortunately, at this time, we certainly had the resources to fund those initiatives. So just want us to make sure that we are aware of two different strategies, but certainly all great work that supports the needs of our students as well as our staff.
Exciting, excellent. Thank you, guys.
Board Member Beckerly.
I want to start with process for a second, because I feel like Monique set us up, or set me up, because we were all about dashboards. And for a split second, I thought we were going to be talking about, this is where we are, and this is what we need to close. This is where we are, and this is what we need, to open, sorry. And this is where we are, and this is what we need to open. And my sense is that's what's happening during these weekly meetings, and that's a beautiful thing. And I think the goal should be to have those dashboards on the website. At some point, but that's only after we create safe space, and that's only after you've established the process such that people, all the leaders are comfortable saying, well, I'm not going to make it here, or I am going to make it here, and this is the real problem, and I don't know if we can fix it in time, like all of that. So I wanted to, compliment that process, and then note that we had that great presentation, then we kind of backslid into the old way of, this is what we've been doing all summer, and all of it is great work, and I completely am grateful and applaud all of the hard work. But at the end of the day, at the board level, and I hate the thought of how much time everyone put into preparing these presentations, and because we don't really need to know all the hard work. We have to trust that it's happening. But what we need to know is, and now I'm going to get into some of the substances, for 2-3 years running, we've had trouble with transportation for all of the reasons that the whole country's having trouble with transportation. Now, I heard that we've increased our communication staff, and then my question is it enough, and how do we know that we're going to be able to tell our parents where the students are this year without them not knowing if they're delayed and that sort of thing? Because to me, that's the thing that's within our locus of control. And are we going to start with, this is where we were last year with 2-hour delays and percentage of communication and wait lines? You had some of that data. So I think, what we should be interested in as a board is, how is that going to be different this year, and how are we going to track it?
And Board Member Beckerly, before Rodney responds, I just want to share that there is so much information in the dashboard. The team is meeting weekly to review it. It's an iterative process. It's fluid. It changes regularly. As Monique said, the schools are giving us feedback on 60 different indicators on that dashboard, but the purpose of the real work happens in those meetings, right?
Yes.
Where they are talking about, where are we in terms of meeting our goals? Are we on track? But for me, as the leader in this organization, what I'm most impressed with is the collaboration that happens in those meetings. So if a team member is saying, we're having a challenge with X, another team member is saying, we got your back. We're going to step in and we're going to help you and support you so that your team can make sure that this is addressed, again, with one goal, one team, being ready and showing that we are, we'll be prepared and ready for day one. So I just want to echo that there's lots of data in the dashboard that's being collected. It's a very fluid process, but certainly there were certain things that we really, really, really wanted to share with the community tonight as we prepare for day one.
And I just want to say that I'm suspecting that this feels very different for a lot of our staff, and it's really wonderful, really wonderful. So, really terrific. And I think as we grow in this way of being, de-siloing, I think that's what Alex
Absolutely.
called it. Hopefully you all will be more comfortable just saying, this is the bottom line here, and we don't need to, you don't need to spend a day putting slides together to tell us all the wonderful things we're doing, because we assume you're doing it. But anyway.
So to make sure I understand your question, can you repeat it again? I want
Yeah,
to
I
make sure.
just, it's one thing to be hit by a national bus driver shortage. It's another, and it's one thing to have a district that's, crazy geographically. And all of those things are the challenges that are within your area of expertise, and you can only do so much with where we are at this moment in time. And the other thing, though, that concerns me, has concerned me for the past 3 openings here, school openings, is being able to tell a parent where their student is, or that the bus is going to be half an hour late, so that, the communication piece of it seems to be something that we need to have a better handle on, because for a parent not to know where their child is at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the evening is, unacceptable.
Absolutely.
And so that's the kind of thing that I think, at least for me, as we come upon my 3rd school opening, is, do we have a plan to do that better?
So yes, one of the plans was we hired additional staff to help within the call center so that we can reduce that volume of.
Is it enough?
I can't say if it's enough yet.
Yeah.
But some of the other measures that we've put in place are in an effort to help reduce the number of calls, to say, where's my bus? One of the facts is, one of the very things that we're working on is trying to get that My Bus Stop tracking app, which allows them to track that bus in real time.
We don't
So
have that yet.
We're working on it. We're working diligently to have that as quickly as we possibly can. There's a couple things that we're struggling with on that to make sure, and we're in the final stages, and we're collaborating tomorrow even more to make sure we have it. But what that would do was reduce the number of calls that are being sent into the call center.
They have it on their phone.
So with the increased number of staff, the reduced number of calls, the ability to track that bus by itself and know that it's coming, it's arrived, and to receive the notifications when it's running behind. That's all part of the process of that school bus app that we want to be able to track with. That's also part of the tools that we want to use Campus Messenger for, to be able to send those kind of information to the parents so that we know, hey, this bus is running about 45 minutes behind or half an hour behind. We can send them notifications. We still have the other practices where they can call into the call center, and the dispatchers can immediately check with a bus and make sure that the student is on there, we're running late for some reason. Maybe they don't have the ability to have the phone. But that all information is still going to be there. So these 2 measures that we're trying to add, along with the measures of the additional staff, are in an effort to inform and communicate better than we ever have.
And I just think that, let's track that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We will be able to track the volume that we had last year, at, on each day versus the volume that we have this year. And I think what we want you to know, we want our community to know, is that the team is working diligently to automate the process, right? Because before, what's different from last year, previous years, you had to call a person and talk to a person to find out where the bus was, if the bus was on time, late, or what have you, but we're trying to automate that process, which certainly would significantly decrease the number of calls that need to be made to the call center. Certainly, we've increased capacity there so we can handle additional call volume, but ideally, the goal would be to automate the process.
And I think that not only is this important just because it's straight up important, being able to show improvement over last year in real time as the news stories start to unfold is also going to be important for our other initiatives this fall. So if it's assuming it's not going to be perfect, which will be really hard. Yes, but we had X thousands of calls in the first 2 weeks. Last year we had 3,000. Whatever story we need to have, let's be ready for that, because I have trust that it's going to be much better this year. So let's make sure we can point to that quickly. Next question. On staffing, I don't think, this isn't a transportation question.
Okay.
I just, and I'm not necessarily looking for the details, but, how, I don't know what, obviously the shortfalls are in special ed on the teaching side. And again, it's sort of the same variation of the problem. We can't solve that problem overnight. There's a national shortage of teachers, and there's shortage of special ed teachers and instructional assistants in particular. I love all so two things. One is, some assurance or some communication about what the plan is to address that, given that we have a shortfall and we know it. And I don't even mean to answer it now. I just want to highlight that that's the thing that we need information about.
Yes, Board Member Beckerly, I think that Courtney addressed that to some extent.
She did, she definitely did.
She
Everybody's meeting and collaborating. And
Yes, well, we're looking at our vacancies and looking at enrollment to determine if they are true vacancies, and where we have an increase in the number of students, perhaps we need to shift teachers, shift allocations. Perhaps we have a decrease, maybe a class is not full. So that is a process that will be an ongoing process to look at our capacity and how we can utilize our internal resources differently. Recognizing that if the special ed teachers aren't knocking on our door, new applicants, then we recognize that we have to utilize our current resources differently internally. In addition, they mentioned all of the upcoming events where we are doing additional recruiting, and she also mentioned the number of building substitutes as well as daily substitutes that we have on hand that we can certainly deploy as needed. So there's some flexibility here, but we do not want to underestimate or underscore the need. The need is real, and the need continues to be real, not only for Columbus City Schools, but for districts across the state as well as across the country. But we have our eyes on it. It's on our radar. We are looking at the data and being as nimble as possible, again, with our resources, knowing that we may need to pivot and change plans given where we are at this date. So it's an ongoing process, and we'll continue to keep this on our radar.
yeah, no, for sure. Again, being able to have a story quickly if it becomes an issue would be good. I think that was basically it.
Thank you, Board Member Beckerly. Vice President Vera.
Thank you, President Adair. And so I echo a lot of the questions that have already been asked. And so, and I think it's not just a story, but having a solution that is going to work for our families is critical, especially around special education. These numbers obviously are concerning. And we also want to think about not overwhelming our staff, our teachers, doing work that is outside of their realm. So I appreciate you highlighting a little bit more about what we can expect. I also wanted to circle back in terms of transportation and to also ensure, as we know, we have a very diverse district. And so really wanting to understand further, or part of that, you said that automation, what does that really look like for families who are new Americans or don't really speak English? I know last year that, we were trying some different things. Were there any new strategies as it relates to our families who need bilingual services?
So as far as we're collaborating with Dr. McNally's team to ensure that our forms of communication are all put out in multiple languages that we deal with. The concept and the understanding is when a text message, the way I understand it, is sent through, or a message is sent through Infinite Campus to them, it's translated into their language that they're reading.
Can we test that? I mean, I hear you saying to your knowledge, but what is really our process for actually testing that?
We can verify that.
Thank you.
That's not a question for Rodney, but Vice President Vera, we certainly appreciate that push and certainly will explore that further to figure out, again, is that working? Certainly that's our expectation, but is it working? How well is it working? And is it meeting the needs of our families?
Thank you. And then my last question is related. I have a question and a comment. My last question, Dr. Klein gave an overview as to kind of what is going on in terms of schedules and things, but when can families actually expect student schedules in Infinite Campus?
President Adair, to Vice President Vera's question, the individual school principals actually make a decision when they will turn on individual schedules for students. As soon as they are ready, Infinite Campus has a system that allows us to turn them on individually by building So that can be done as soon as a principal is ready.
That's, okay. Right. All right, thank you, Dr. Klein, I appreciate that. And then lastly, I just wanted to say thank you. Monique, I love the dashboard. I love what you're creating alongside of all your team members. To hear of just some operational strategies that are going to be huge for this district. I just want to thank you for your leadership in that space. I think it's just reflective of just all the great work you all are doing together collectively, and I just wanted to thank you for that. And Mr. Trevino, I've already started receiving calls from parents thanking me for the ADA new playgrounds that their kids are now able to play in. And so I think that's just, really, really amazing. I've been able to drive by some of these installs and to see kids out there who are in wheelchairs being able to play. I just wanted to say thank you for that work, and families are already noticing that. One other thing I did want to just highlight, a lot of the middle schoolers and high schoolers that we spend time with often ask me why their colors are always gray or just really dark colors. You go into the elementary schools, it's always this vibrant color scheme, and they're like, what's up with our buildings? Like, why is it always this like one color? So just wanted to, just add that as food for thought. The vibrancies that I saw in these pictures for elementary were very exciting. And then I saw the gray at Mifflin. And so I'm excited to see the work that's happening in our middle and high schools. But I just want to be mindful as we are in this space of restorative practices and, wanting to create environments for our kids, being mindful also of like the finishings and the colors and the selections, if we can be just thoughtful and more intentional in that space. And that's not really coming from me, that's coming from the kids we all work for. So thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Cole.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is around transportation. So thank you so much for your patience, Mr. Rodney. All right. My first question is how many routes have we totally identified? Are we settled on what we know are going to be the final number of routes?
As of today, we're at 535, but our team is working diligently to bring that down. I don't know the exact number that we're going to come to, but it will be lower than that number through pairings and offsetting some of our routes that fit together. The biggest thing that we wanted to focus on this year was the reliability, and one of the things that we struggled with last year was how they were all spread out, and we had no control over that. So what our teams right now are doing is going through and pairing routes to make sure they make sense, and in doing so, they're also able to eliminate a couple things. So the number is going down, but I don't know the exact number right now. We're sitting at 535 when we finished routing everyone that we were aware of.
Okay.
And they're going to pare that down from there.
Now, with the 487 current available drivers identified to prepared to drive for us, this pairing model that you're trying to utilize, is it something that this number of drivers available will actually be able to accommodate and manage?
As it stands right now, with the contracts that we have with our partners to help offset, they're going to take 105 of them. So our total route number right now, if it's 535, we're going to have about 430 that we'll be responsible for internally.
Okay, so our 487 will then be able to cover that with some drivers possibly available to spare should folks not be able to make work,
That is our
miss
intent.
work.
That is our intent, yes.
Okay, thank you for that clarity. When you're thinking about a timeline, obviously we want to be ready prior to the first day of school. But is there a timeline between now and when you're really looking to finalize that number? And ideally, is it around the date of the school fair, the 19th? I know you guys will be participating in some measure with that.
We'll be finalized to the point that we will put it on Infinite Campus before August 6th. August 6th is our drop deadline. that will load that into the Infinite Campus, therefore that the routes will be able to be viewed. And then we'll make adjustments as we receive some more of the enrolled students that may not be in there yet.
So, and this is more of a multiple question and final that is not just you, but would also be Dr. Klein and whoever else can come up and speak to specifically around this fair. I'm really excited that Student Services is going to be open that day, just like they were last year. I thought that worked out incredibly well for families and for children. How are we looking at leveraging what you're going to know, what you're preparing to know, so that we're further informing families on site that day?
Go ahead.
Board President Adair, to Board Member Cole's question, we are prepared to not only help our families with their bus routes, but remember, the fair is going to be after they're already in Infinite Campus. So we will have our enrollment specialist, we have a whole staff that will be there that will be helping parents as they come in. And even our secretaries at Central Enrollment, they are participating and will be helping our parents so that we can get the greatest bang for our buck.
Awesome.
And we are very excited. Tomorrow, we will actually, at our Secretaries Academy, we'll be providing excellent customer service because we're going to teach all of them how to do it. So that customer service will be elevated, and each of the secretaries in every one of the buildings and our department secretaries and substitute secretaries will know exactly where those bus routes are in Infinite Campus to serve our parents.
Thank you very kindly. I appreciate that.
Reyes.
Thank you. Right, thank you very much for hosting East Coast Migrant Head Start, the Head Start staff, the transportation staff from that organization. They were absolutely amazed about the information you shared, as they also are struggling with transportation issues. So they're taking a lot of information back. But so that goes to my my question. You said we're going to have some partners that take a couple of routes. Some of the concerns I heard from some of our parents last year is they really appreciate the customer service and the attentiveness of our bus drivers, and it wasn't perceived the same way from some of our contractors. So I want to make sure that that's something that we keep on our radar, is how, and this is something that occurred many years ago also as to why we brought busing in. We had some issues where they weren't receiving the same service from our contractors as if they were our own bus drivers. So I just want to make sure that I put that on our radar because I had some of those issues. The other concern that I had from some of our parents was the time on the bus for our very small children, for our little kids, our pre-K and kindergarten. So as we're looking at our routes, what does that look like and how are we communicating to our parents about those routes, and how long a small child is going to be on that route. And one of the tools that Head Start uses is they actually created a little video simulation so that parents could show that to their kindergartners of what a bus drive should be and what it could look like. And then also for some of our new arrivals. So we have a large new immigrant population in Columbus City Schools that have never been on buses. So I could share that simulation with you, but as Dr. Klein was talking, I was wondering, can we have some sort of simulation of the buses at our fair? Where our kids can go in, sit down, look at what it looks like, have a simulator. I've never been on a bus.
Absolutely. I think last year we had, you rode the bus from the parking lot to the fair. I remember that because that was my son's first time being on a big yellow bus, and he was excited. But we could certainly make sure that we have hands-on opportunities for our families. Again, the purpose of the fair is to really provide our families with all of the information, resources, as well as experiences so that they can be successful and prepared for day one.
And I think, go ahead.
I'd like to report too, we do have that slated to be at the fair this year. So We've been working in collaboration with the teams to make sure that we have additional resources there to bring the students on, let them see the buses. So we have a team slated to be there.
And I think the same with the schedule. The students say, that's the biggest question we always get is, when is the bus schedule going to be announced? When do I know what the number of the buses for our kids, and where do I know our bus stop?
Okay, so the information will be loaded in Infinite Campus. They can view it in Parent Portal under the Transportation tab, starting on August 7th. And the mailers will be sent out by the end of that week, so they would receive them within a couple days. So the part of the things this year is we have the ability to control much more than we did last year.
Yes, and I know that some parents shared that the bus drivers were sharing, like, if they're gonna be late. And I think if the app is not ready to launch, I think there are other ways that some of our own staff have been creative in communicating with our parents. So kudos to our bus drivers and some of our principals. So, thank you. The rest is communication. So, Dr. Chapman, so as our communication team was talking about our website, I've been accessing our website, and our language is not working. So when you press Espanol or Francés or anything, it goes to this LEP page, and nothing else is translated. Nothing on transportation, nothing on the home page. It could be user error, so I will put that out there, because I was on the wrong page when I was asking.
We will investigate that further. Board Member Reyes, thank you for flagging.
And this happened last year. The other thing that Vice President Vera kind of mentioned, how are we communicating to some of the new Americans? And I was looking at our portal. Charity Newsies announced that they're allowing our parents to register for free clothing. And one of the things that our organization that serves Spanish-speaking Latino, Hispanic families did is we invited those families to come into our center, and we would help them go on and register their children so they could receive free clothes for the first day of school. So I would encourage us to reach out to organizations like that serve immigrant populations to see how they can help us sign people up for the student portal, communicating. I know we're signed up into the partner piece, but I think we could, and that wasn't even my idea, that was somebody else on my team. I wish I could take credit for that, but she saw the announcement from Charity Newsies, and she quickly just said, you know what, I bet you our parents don't know how to do that. And she got 5 volunteers, 8 computers, and we had, in less than 2 days, we had 35 parents that came to the center. We gave them 2 hours, and it took a matter of minutes to walk them through, because same there, the portal, here's the link is in Spanish, but the application was in English. So I would ask us to do that. And then lastly, from a communications perspective, one of the things that does work, at least in my community from Spanish speaking, is podcast. Not everybody knows how to read. So having, and I know you've used a lot of the, there's a lot of podcasts and there's a lot of information. And I think taking advantage of the fact that you have this on the website where it says click here for first day of school, some of these instructions being videoed, where what people can do, this is what you can do, this is how you can register. Again, my organization is seeing 50 new Hispanic immigrant families a week. So that's just one organization. I know, we all know there's a lot of other immigrant populations. So this is brand new to them. They don't register. Some of the families that we've met with have never even been to school. So how are we accessing that? So that's on the communication piece.
Thank you, Board Member Reyes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Superintendent, we have 21 days, 10 hours, and 37 minutes until the first day of school. Will we be ready?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
The team is working hard, and we will be ready for day one CCS.
Thank Thank you. All right, do you have anything else?
No, that concludes my report. Thank you.
I would just say I was playing around with our website, and it does look like the languages work, especially if you hit the translate over on the side. So I
That's
just
why I
want
said it
to
could be user-led.
make sure that our community members know that Dr. Chapman and her team are at ease, that it appears to be working properly.
Thank you, and we'll continue to test it.
For me as well. I played with it,
Working or not?
working,
Oh, okay, awesome. Great, thank you.
working.
Mine does what hers does. So I think we do need to look at it.
Can I just add one quick process thing? When we have multiple people presenting, can we figure out how to give them a seat at the table and not have them come back and forth to the podium? I just think that makes a lot of sense on a lot of fronts.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and move over to item 7, which is the report from our treasurer's office. Welcome interim treasurer Vanover.
Thank you. So while we've been looking forward, I'm going to take a quick look backwards and give us the quarterly report, because as you well know, we've completed a fiscal year. So, so this is our normal quarterly report. So this is for the months of April through June. The one thing I do want to point out, the quarterly report is based on comparison to our plan, our monthly plan, spending plan, which is based on the November forecast. So while some of these numbers look rather large, it's because we're looking at a forecast that is substantially older and clearly not the most recent one that you guys would have seen. So as you can see, revenues came in just under 50 million above plan. Expenditures came in about 21.6 million below plan, which put our cash balance a little over 70 million above plan. Again, in comparison to November. In comparison to May, which is the forecast the board most recently approved, revenues were 5.6% above plan, expenditures were 2.3% below plan, and the cash balance, I'm sorry, that's the other numbers, 2.9% above plan for revenues, 2% above plan for the expenditures, and 3.8% above plan for cash balance. So as a comparison to the May forecast versus the November forecast, obviously we were much closer, which makes sense because we were significantly closer to the end of the year and we had much more actuals to work off of. Again, as it relates to the revenues, these are, again, based on the plan, which is for November. So as a point of comparison, just because the board has reviewed and approved the May 5-year forecast, I wanted to speak more to how it compared to May. So compared to May, the revenues came in, like I mentioned before, 2.9% above plan, which is a little under 27 million. The biggest contributors to that impact, given that we were, again, closer to the fiscal year end when we made that May forecast, is 15 million in a transportation penalty that was built into the forecast but was never actually assessed and taken. We had an $8.3 million indirect cost ex-proc that was funds that were recaptured to the general fund and essentially paid out of ESSER. That was done, again, as a fiscal year-end process. And we received a second Medicaid reimbursement payment of about $4.2 million. So for fiscal year 22, we didn't receive any. In fiscal year 23, we actually received 2. So those 3 contributors were the biggest drivers to the fact that our revenues came in almost 3% above what we estimated at May's forecast. These next slides provide those plan comparisons both on a quarter date and a year-to-date base or variance based on dollars. And then these graphs provide the same comparisons as a percentage, just as provided some context. As we get into the expenditures, again, compared to the May forecast, we were above the estimate by about 2%, which is around 17.8 million. Again, the primary driver there was an increase in the advances out, which, as has been mentioned before, will work itself out when the final return advance comes in after the ESSER funds are completely expended and that final advance is returned to the general fund. But this year, the estimate was low by $9.2 million. Some of that was ESSER, some of that was other grants, which I anticipate is a function of having utilized ESSER in lieu of some of the other grants, trying to utilize those short-term dollars more effectively and capturing and conserving some of the other funds available. In addition, personnel came in slightly above, just under $0.8 million above. Non-personnel came in a little bit higher, again, and that's just a function of some of the spending that occurred towards the end of the year that we had estimated a certain amount, but again, nothing earth-shattering. It was all very comparable to what we expected based on the May forecast. Again, we get into the variances by dollars, both quarter to date and year to date, again, in comparison to the plan. And again, as it relates to quarter to date and year to date variance as a percentage. So final impact on this, again, this is a recap of the beginning, but cash balance compared to May forecast ended up just under 4% above what was estimated, or about $8.9 million above plan. So because of those factors, we did end up with a slightly higher cash balance than was estimated on the May forecast, but again, significantly above where we were in November. But again, that makes sense given that we had a lot more of actual data to work with. So that is the quarterly report, unless there are specific questions that you have.
Are there questions? Questions?
One other thing I did want to mention before we move on, Eric, Jordan, and I today spent a fun-filled, frigid day at the Hilton Polaris going through the what's affectionately known as the BAD seminar. It's the Budget Analysis and Discussion Seminar. So it's basically an overview of all the fun things that came through the budget process. So although the affectionate name is the BAD seminar, there was actually some good news as it relates to school funding. The phase-in has been approved and will continue. So this year we will see 50% versus the 33.5 or 33.3% this year, and we will see 66.67% next year. Those numbers will be reflected in the August payments, so we will see those in this next coming round of state foundation payments. The other positive that came out of that was that the cost sets were all updated. That was one of the things that was not helpful to us. If you increase certain variables, but you leave the other ones 5-6 years behind, that doesn't help. So all the cost sets were updated to fiscal year 23 or 22. Those numbers, since they are statutory, whereas the phase-in is tied to the appropriation, so that's why those adjustments will be made in August. The statutory things, the cost set updates, those will all be reflected in our October payments, which is going to put us in a very tight pinch to make sure that we try to get accurate numbers for the forecast, because we'll be presenting the forecast in October, but we'll do our best to get those as accurate as we can. They also put out simulations. I never know the acronym. It's LSC. I don't know what it stands for.
Legislative Service Commission.
There you go. They have a simulation out there Jordan has already modeled and come darn near close, or darn near perfect to matching their simulation. So now what we need to do is go look through the various impacts, the various things that impact the funding, so property values, enrollment, those types of things, and see, because the simulations that were projected and provided to us were based on assumptions back in January, February. We have new information, so we want to make sure that the assumptions embedded into the simulation are accurate so that we're not making decisions and setting up the forecast based on assumptions that we know are not correct. So those are the types of things that now we're going to dig into and look at and, touch base with, enrollment staff to make sure that we understand where we fall, how that's going to come through, as well as we know full well that our property values are going to be going up, making sure that the value increases are reflective and are consistent with what we've been told by the Franklin County Auditor. So those are the things that we'll be working on here in the next few months to get prepared for an updated November forecast. And just as a point of reference, we have an FAC meeting next Wednesday. And at the August 15th board meeting, we have secured somebody from the Franklin County Auditors to come and provide information about reappraisal, just to help everybody understand how that's going to work, as well as answer any questions. So it is, with it being a reappraisal year, there's a lot of questions that come around for that information. So we're trying to provide that resource both to the board as well as the community and staff to help them better understand how that process works. So that's all I have.
Chair Coles, or anything you'd like to add?
Nope, I think she stated it succinctly. Thank you for taking your time, breathe deep. You did a wonderful job, thank you.
All right, we are going to go ahead and move into item 8, which is notice of public hearing on reemployment of retired employees. We have a notice of public hearing on reemployment of Kelly Middenhoff. Pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 3309.345, the Columbus Board of Education gives notice that Kelly Middenhoff, who retired from the Columbus City Schools effective May 31st, 2023, is seeking reemployment with the Columbus City Schools as a special education instructional assistant effective October 4th, 2023. The board will hold a public hearing on October 3rd, 2023 at 6 p.m. in the boardroom at 3700 South High, Columbus, Ohio, on the issue of Ms. Middenhoff's reemployment. Item 9, we have 2 public hearings on reemployment of retired employees. The first is a public hearing on the reemployment of William Marshall. There is no one here to speak on that, so the hearing is closed. Item 9.2, public hearing on reemployment of China White. Again, no one here to speak on this, so the hearing is closed. On to item 10, our consent agenda. This evening, our consent agenda consists of items 11.1 to 26.5. Are there any items a board member would like to remove for separate consideration? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve our consent agenda?
So moved.
There's been a motion. Is there a second? There's been a second. Are there any items a board member would like to discuss? Dr. Pierce.
I'm interested in item 17.2, which is the authority to purchase athletic supplies and equipment for our middle schools and our high schools from BSN Sports Incorporated. My question relates to our strategy and processes for how we plan to offer athletics, extracurricular activities to our students. I think as we think about the much-needed levies that we've all at length indicated that we will support, athletics and extracurricular activities are part of what our students and our families want to be a part of their academic experience within the district. And so, again, I'm interested to know if the team is discussing what our strategy is around increasing those numbers, increasing the dollars that are going to our sports teams, and modernizing their facilities, be it track items, be it courts, be it weight rooms and locker rooms.
Yes, Dr. Pierce, as it says in the context for this legislation, we are well aware of the need to increase our support for athletic supplies and equipment, resources, including facilities. Tonight you heard from Alex Trevino, who talked about some of those capital improvement investments in our athletic spaces that are well underway. But certainly we want to know that this conversation and the strategy around increasing our investments in this space will be an ongoing conversation that we'll certainly need to consider as we think about strategically balancing our budgets. If you'll recall, back in the spring, in the previous budget cycle, our finance team recommended to the administration that we reduce our non-personnel general budget by 30%. We were able to make reductions to the tune of 16%. So again, we're at a space where we certainly need to consider, again, the needs of our district, and that means the needs of all areas representing the whole child, right?
So we think about academics, we certainly consider athletics and extracurriculars a key component of that work. But I just want you to know that these items, that certainly they're budget sensitive, and we certainly want to make sure that we're prioritizing the needs of the whole child as we are looking to, manage our resources.
I'm so happy that that conversation is happening, that you all are thinking about the resources that our students need for that. My next question then relates to the pay for our officials. It has been brought to my attention by several different sources that other districts tend to pay more to officials than we pay within our district. And so if there's a way that we can analyze what our spending is per official, be it middle school or high school sports, and if we're competitive, if we're not competitive, just so we have that information out there. What we definitely don't want happening is officials, thinking, or just because they hear through whatever source that we are not being competitive in our compensation. We want to be competitive.
Thank you
to
for
ensure
that comment, Dr. Pierce. I don't think that was pertaining to the piece of legislation, but important topic
Yes,
to talk about later.
athletics.
I know. Are there any other items board members would like to discuss? Okay, seeing none, please call the roll.
Dr. Pierce.
With the exception of 14.1, which is the authority to renew with OSU, which I am abstaining from, yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Vice President Vera?
Yes.
President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
I will abstain as well from 14.1, but yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We're going to move to item 28, which is our executive session. Vice President Vera, you have the motion.
I move that the Board of Education recess into executive session per Section 121.22 G1 Ohio Revised Code to consider the appointment, employment, or compensation of public employees, and per Section 121.22 G3 Ohio Revised Code to confer with an attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are subject of pending or imminent court action, and per Section 121.22 G4 to prepare for, conduct, or review negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment.
Second.
All right, please call the roll.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Vice President Vera?
Yes.
President Adair?
Yes.
Ms. Beckerly?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cole?
Yes.
Dr. Pierce?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. We will now adjourn into executive session. That will conclude the public, or the televised portion of our meeting. Thank you to all the staff that joined us today. And I don't have my timer up, but we have, oh, here we go, 21 days, 10 hours, 18 minutes now. Return to school. Thank you, everybody.